What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Powerhouse Mentality Podcast. I am your host. I am Caitlin Kenneth Smith, and today we're pulling back the curtain on one of the most respected companies in the supplement industry. Aaron Summers has spent over 13 years helping build Phorm from a small startup into one of the biggest names in sports nutrition. But this conversation isn't about protein powder or pre-workout. It's about leadership, culture, standards, delayed gratification, and why the people who win in fitness, business, and life all play the long game. We dive into how Aaron went from a small town kid with no clear direction to becoming an executive at Phorm, why everyone wants to be a CEO, but few want to earn it, the philosophy behind Phorm, how culture is built one standard at a time, and why keeping the commitments you make to yourself changes everything. If you're trying to build a business, build your career, or simply become a better version of yourself, this episode is for you. So sit back and relax and enjoy this episode. Ready? In 3, 2, and we're twinning. We got the same flavor.
Look at that.
Watermelon Wrath. This one's good.
That's a virtual cheers.
Hell yeah. That's a good flavor. Nailed it.
It is. I don't know, I can't say it's my top flavor. It is up there. Hard to rank. But
it is hard to rank. I would say this one's probably my top 3 if we're going to count the Summer Smash ones as like the same. Yep. Because those two are probably my number 1, but Mango Peach is really close too.
I know. I love the Mango Peach. I have a hard time finding it here. You would think it'd be easy for me to get. That's not the case.
Yeah, no, I definitely can't find it here in North Carolina. It's like lucky if I find the original flavors here.
I know. I was down in Florida a few weeks ago, and I stopped in at Circle K. They had like 6 12-packs of them, and I just bought them. I was like, we're just taking these.
Yeah, mine now. Hey, you got to do what you got to do. It's feeding the addiction.
That's right. I'm excited to be here with you today, though. What have you been up to?
Oh, man. I mean, we just recently moved to North Carolina, so been settling in for the last 2 months. We actually moved about a week before Summer Smash, actually a few days before Summer Smash, so nothing was unpacked. We didn't even have our mattress in our bedroom or anything. We slept on the couch the night before. At like 3 a.m. we drove to the airport and we got on the plane to go to Summer Smash to see you guys.
Where did you move to in North Carolina?
We're in Angier, so it's about 40 minutes from Raleigh. So what was that, 2 weeks ago, Will and Darcy were out here with Steven for an event, and we went to that.
Yeah, Will told me you were working the table in the rain, dishing out some samples. I love to hear it.
It was my first time slinging post-workout shakes like that, and I think being in the worst possible environment to do so in the pouring rain, literally had to take the ignition out and immediately close the tub so that it didn't get chunky. Now I'm ready for anything.
Yeah, Will said he didn't realize you'd never worked the table like that before, mixing up products, but you did very good, so.
I appreciate that. Good feedback. I love to hear it.
You guys didn't have a tent, nothing, huh?
No, nothing. Just vibes,
Nice. Great way to do it.
Hell yeah. So how have you been? Because I know the last time we actually had a conversation was in probably the most, high vibe and high anxiety kind of experience at Summer Smash.
Yeah, Caitlin, I black those days out. So I vaguely remember our conversation, and that's about it. But I've been good. Work here is always crazy. Always new things happening and keeps you busy all the time between that and traveling for different events or different conferences, things we've got going on here. Always busy. My wife, my 18-month-old daughter at home, she just always keeps me busy. So it's good. I prefer it that way than any other way.
Yeah. And how did Summer Smash go for you guys? Because I know you play a pretty big role in planning that, don't you?
Yeah, so I have planned that event for the last 11 years now. This year was the first year we just hired a new director of events role, and he is learning to take that over as part of his responsibilities as well. So obviously his first year still had to do the majority of work with that, taking him along the process, but hopefully going into next year, he'll be able to take the reins and run with it from here. But it turned out amazing. It was the best event, certainly, that we've done. Most amount of people we've had. Honestly, one of the smoothest events we've had. There's always little wrinkles, whether the attendees, guests see any of that or not. We always feel them on the back end. But all in all, was very proud of how the team operated. Team did a great job of, just really taking ownership of the different positions and roles they had. And, most of the problems, if there were problems that happened, never made its way back up the chain. And it was a smooth event. We had great weather, great performances, great people. So can't ask for much.
Yeah, when the weather holds up, it's really a big win.
Yeah. What was your thoughts of the addition of the rodeo this year?
I think that was really cool. I think it's very fitting to what First Form stands for, is like having that like real American feel to it. I think a lot of people enjoyed it too because so many people just have never experienced it before. So I think it's cool to throw people into that situation.
That's what I thought was very cool. The amount of people that had never seen a rodeo in real life before. And it was also cool to watch. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of people there. Most of the time at any of the activations, people are just hanging out, they're talking, yeah, they might go, see the attractions or watch the performer for a while, but they want to connect with each other. And to see so much of the group, sit in the stands and like focus on the rodeo the entire time, I thought was super cool.
Yeah, I mean that's the best part of those events is like the experience itself and all of like the acts and the entertainment. That's awesome, but the best part is just connecting with people who are like-minded. And every single time I go to First Form or anytime I go to Summer Smash, it's always, wow, these people genuinely care about me and want me to get better.
Yep. Yeah. For me, I've been here with First Form for a little over 13 years now. And it's anytime somebody asks me about, what it's like to work here, that's one of the things I always bring up that I am most grateful for. Having come from a different career and background, like, and even just friends and, people that I know outside of obviously work in First Form that talk about their jobs and talk about, the people they work with, and they don't like the people they work with, and they don't have good relationships with the people they work with. There's not been a single day in my 13 years that I haven't wanted to come to work. It certainly doesn't mean there are always good days. Like there's a
Mhm.
lot of bad days in the mix too and hard days. But I genuinely love the people we do it with, and it excites me to come to work every single day and do it with them. The same from the workout standpoint. I know you've seen it, but it's hard not to be motivated to work out when you've got a group of people surrounding you, that are in there giving it their best. And so from our team workouts to just pop in our gym to get a workout, it's always good to have good people around you that are constantly pushing themselves to get better. And I think naturally it just pushes everybody in that environment.
Yeah, and that environment is contagious. It's like anything. Negativity is super contagious. So if you're in a workspace where everybody's toxic and always talking crap about people, it spreads into your entire life and it just makes you feel worn out. But if you have that opposite effect where you have that positivity, you have people constantly pushing you, even the hard days are better than the best days probably in those toxic places.
Yeah, 100%. And I know at least from my experience here, I always relate it kind of back to sports because I played sports growing up and, was lucky to be a part of a lot of great teams growing up. But no matter how tough the challenge is, when you're surrounded by other people that, you can rely on them and they're going to give it their best effort too, like it doesn't make that challenge seem so difficult, and it seems worthwhile to show up and keep fighting that fight every single day. So truly, especially for the core of us that have been here throughout the ride and building the brand, the relationship I have, like for me, this is my family. I don't have any family here in St. Louis outside of obviously my wife and my daughter, but to work with people that I truly consider my family and I get to do life with and show up and build something great with every single day, like I think it's one of the biggest blessings I have.
Yeah. And one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to have you on is because I have so many people who have started businesses, entrepreneurs, CEOs who come on here and talk. But a lot of people, I feel like in social media today, it's very glorified that you have to be an entrepreneur in order to be successful. When the reality is, you can build an incredible life being a big part of an organization and helping to build that from the inside out. And that's kind of what you've been doing.
For sure. Yeah, myself, Will, Brian, the three of us that came on early with Sal and Andy and Chris and Jason, Andy, and this is something, again, I'm just very fortunate for because I don't think a lot of organizations, promote this, talk about it, or even give you the opportunity to progress always within the company. There are some amazing organizations out there that do have great business models that do that, and that's amazing. But something that Andy and Sal always talked about with us early on was not looking at this like a job. And it's something that stuck with me. Andy talks about all the time of being an entrepreneur. For sure, there is, especially in today's day and age, I would say the last, 5, 6 years, the glorification of being a CEO, start your own business on paper and automatically it goes into the title on Instagram, CEO of whatever it is that they just built. They've done nothing. They're not making any real progress with it, but they just want the title that comes along with that. And I do think, certainly there's a segment of people that, my wife is one of those. She went to school, got her doctorate in physical therapy, worked for corporate, physical therapy, for a while, hated it, hated what they were doing, almost left completely, decided to go out and build her own thing, and go down that route. And she's built an amazing business. She's been super successful. She makes amazing impact and she loves what she does. And I think some people are just naturally drawn to that. I could not imagine Andy working, for somebody else in a different, company. Like it's just not his DNA. But for me, that's what, yes, I've had that desire in some ways, and I feel like I would be drawn to that. But, I also love being a part of just a great organization, that allows me the opportunity to grow. And for me, even coming in at an early point in the company when there really wasn't a lot of opportunity, it wasn't going to come fast. I could always see, that's why I came here in the first place, is I saw the vision that they were painting and what they were trying to do. And that got me excited. And it got me excited to go join other people, that had this great vision, were willing to put the work in for it, and to come alongside and give it everything I've got, So it really has been my story as far as evolving through, because I started in an entry level sales position part-time and have worked my way through the company to be an executive in the organization and oversee a lot of the things we've done here. But that took 13 years of that progression. And for the first 4 years, there was really no progression in that. So it is just the hope and belief and continue to work at it and build your skill set. That takes a lot of internal fortitude to make it through those early years to get to that point.
Yeah, and everybody sees the success. Everybody sees like the position. And they want that, but they don't see all the years that go behind it. Like you said, 13 years go behind this. In the first 4 years, you didn't really make much progress. But how did it begin? Like, where does your story start? How did you become the person that you are today? I'd love to hear how you got involved with Andy and Sal in the first place.
Yeah. So you want the long or the short of it? How much time you want me to
Hey,
spend?
give me the long story. I'm in it.
Okay, so we will take this all the way back to, I would say, me graduating high school. I grew up in a very small town, a town of technically where I went to high school. It was about 1,000 people. Realistically, I lived 15 miles outside of town it's a village. It's not even a town. The village of Allendale, if you want to look it up on a map, it's in the far northwest corner of Missouri. There was 46 people that lived there. That's where I grew up, middle
Crazy.
of nowhere country. The reason I say that is I didn't have a lot of perspective growing up. My family wasn't well off. We never traveled. I didn't experience a lot of things. And so I had a very limited perspective of the world or what was possible, what success was, that, finding something you're passionate about and doing it was even a realistic thing. Again, at the time, like, as I was getting out of high school and into college, like social media was just coming about. So it wasn't like it is today where you get to see all of this different stuff happening, whether it's on YouTube or Instagram or whatever it is. And so for me, like, I thought, well, hey, like, what are the successful careers I could get into? Well, a doctor or a lawyer or, like something like that. Okay, that's like peak success in my mind. Man, if I could just make $100,000, like I am, the most successful person I could ever even think about being. And
That's
so that's
legit the exact perspective that I had when I was growing up because my family, same thing, we weren't well off and, social media wasn't a thing. So I would never see like what's truly possible. So you
yeah.
think, oh, well, lawyers make a lot of money. So I'll be a lawyer. And if I make 100 grand a year, wow, I'm like golden.
That was legitimately my thought process. And so I was the first person in my family to go to a formal college, went to college, chose to do pre-law, and I was going to, go that route. To a year and a half in, as I was going through the curriculum, I was like, you know what? I am not smart enough to be a lawyer. I cannot do this.
I feel that. I started doing criminal justice and then I was like, do we have any health or fitness things I could do here? This is
Yeah,
hard.
yeah, 100%. And kind of a little more backstory of my family. My father and his dad, my grandpa, who passed away when I was a child, they ran a small, limestone quarry. And so, like, I grew up kind of in the mining industry. Again, my family wasn't successful. My grandpa had passed away. His wife had battled cancer, had a lot of debt. When he passed away, my dad took over the business, inherited a lot of debt, and we spent the majority of my childhood of him building that business just to get us in a better spot. And so I knew the mining world. And when I was going through that period of college of, doing my pre-law degree, struggling in classes, and I was just never a good student. Never, and really, I think back, and a lot of it's a cop out. I just never wanted to spend the time to really be a good student or learn the material. I wanted to mess around. I wanted to run around with my friends and do what they were doing. I never wanted to spend time. I think my wife, who would spend all night and all morning in the library studying textbooks and memorizing flashcards of body parts and how everything works, and that was just not me. I never put the work in. I didn't have the discipline to do it then, and so I gave up on that. I took a gen geology class as part of my undergrad, and it came natural to me because, again, from the mining side of things, I knew all of that information. I was able to pass the class very easily without studying or doing any of the work that I should have been doing. And so my mind, I was like, well, maybe I'm not, built or meant to be successful at that level and become, a lawyer. And so maybe I'll just be like my dad and, I'll get my geology degree and, I'll go get a mine job, and maybe one day I'll just move back and take over his operation. And that was my thought process, and that's what I did the rest of throughout college. Was switched my major to geology, refocused on that, finished out my degree, took an internship with a company, Duluth Metals, up in Minnesota. Went up, did that, was in a spot to have a great career in that world. But, through that process, as I was actually kind of getting into work, realized, experienced some more things in the meantime. I was like, you know what? I'm really not passionate about this. I don't even really enjoy it. Watching the people that would be in the role that I would be in, the lifestyle that they had, they're traveling the country all the time, they're going out to bars every single night, living in a different city. It's like, I don't want to do this, and so I was just not in a good spot. And kind of where Andy and Sal and First Form comes into the picture, where I went to college, the chaplain of the football team was from St. Louis and worked for Andy and Chris at their other business, Supplement Superstores, which I believe you're aware of.
But yeah.
Yeah. So I had known about Andy. This would have been 2009 timeframe.
Okay.
I had known about Andy and supplement superstores throughout college then, because he would go back. David Quad was the guy's name. He would go back to St. Louis in the summer or breaks, and he would work for Chris and Andy at supplement superstores, and he would bring back supplements, and he would tell me about Andy and what Andy was working on. And through that, this is back when Andy was just getting started on Facebook. Instagram, he wasn't even on Instagram at the time, but I was following him there, and I was reading his posts, and I was watching what he's posting. All
Mm-hmm. That's what Andy does best, man. You feel like running through a brick wall when you talk to him.
Yeah, and this is back when, he had, maybe 1,000 or a few thousand followers. Like, he wasn't what he was today. But what I think is the cool part about Andy specifically is he's always had an amazing ability to cast a vision and get you to believe, and so for me, he played a pivotal role in shaping kind of my mindset of what was possible and getting me to think and dream a little bit bigger. And so back into the geology role, internship, kind of getting started in my career in the mining industry. This is 6 months post graduation. Was back, at where I went to college for another friend that was graduating. Was sitting down. David Quad was telling me about First Form and what Andy was trying to build there. And I just, again, wasn't in a good spot mentally. And I asked him, I was like, "What's the chance you could get me an interview there?" He's like, "I'll line it up." And I was like, "Cool." I didn't hear anything of it. A few weeks went by, got a phone call. It was Mike Taylor, who works for the brand. At the time I thought he was like Andy's secretary or something. Didn't know what he did. But, drove all the way to St. Louis, had an interview. They have a 3 interview process for entry level minimum wage job, which was, great at the time. It was a lot of back and forth travel to and from St. Louis. My parents thought I was crazy. But, fast forward, ended up getting the position, offered the position. Andy told me, hey, I don't have anything available here at First Form, but if you want to move to St. Louis and take an entry level retail sales job at Supplement Superstores, if you do well there, I'll hire you at First Form as it grows.
That's awesome. I actually had no idea that you worked for Supplement Superstores before you worked for First Form.
Yeah, so I spent 8 months there. Quit my job, moved to St. Louis, knew nobody, had only been to St. Louis one other time outside of the interviews. And that was when I was like 6 years old. So like I wasn't even sure of anything in the city, but I packed my stuff in a trailer, moved down, got an apartment, and took the job. And really, yeah, I spent 8 months really just at Supplement Superstores working through that organization, learning more about obviously the products and the core values and how they do things. And, was fortunate to be able to earn an opportunity to come over to First Form as we started growing the brand more national.
That's crazy. So a lot of people's stories when they start working at First Form kind of start like this is I didn't know what was going to happen, but I took my whole life and I moved to St. Louis. I had no friends, no family, nothing there, and I started working in the warehouse, or I started working at a very entry level position.
Yeah.
And the reason why, as I'm learning, is that, and I already knew this, is Andy paints an incredible vision, and what that man says, everything he says, I believe he's going to do it, regardless of how crazy it sounds.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's this facility. So I vividly remember early on in my time coming into the brand, which would have been 2013. You know, him walking through the vision of how this would evolve, and the small headquarters we were in. Then he laid out the plans for this headquarters that we were going to build and where it was going to be at and what we were going to accomplish as a brand. And almost to a T, we have done all of those things throughout that time. And at the time when I got started, I mean, we might have done 20 orders a day. Like, I mean, we weren't doing anything on our, D2C side of our brand anyways, and had no reason to believe that was possible, but to your point, like he does, Andy has an amazing ability to, cast a vision, Sal as well, to paint that picture of what is possible and to really get the team to buy into doing the work to accomplish it. And for me, again, that's what I love about being here. Because in most cases, I think people play the odds of, is it possible I could do that? Probably not. So I'm not even going to try, and for my entire existence here, it's always how do we raise the bar even higher than what we think is truly possible for us and just completely commit to selling out and doing the work to get there. And maybe we don't. Maybe we don't get there. But again, it's that relentless effort of constantly working on ourselves to get better and constantly seeing how we can improve and make a bigger impact that has allowed us to continue to elevate the brand and drive more and more success.
Right. Now, getting into Supplement Superstores in First Form, were you super into supplements and super into fitness, or were you just kind of
Yeah,
into it? Yeah.
so, and that kind of goes back to my upbringing, like always into sports, always
Hmm.
into fitness, throughout college as well. But again, I never really thought that was a potential for any sort of career or opportunity. And
I don't think a lot of people do, especially, I mean, now it's definitely more well known,
yes,
but I know even when I was growing up, it was like,
early
man, I guess I'll be a
2000s,
personal trainer, you know?
nobody talked about fitness as a career or an industry.
Mm.
Like that wasn't even a thing. I think when I was growing up. To your point, yes, now way more of a thing. Obviously, there's so many people that have built successful businesses around it, whether that's training or coaching or some other business. But yeah, I never even considered it because I never saw anybody else do that.
Yeah. I think when Instagram started is when people started to realize, like, I can be more than a personal trainer. I can be an online coach. And now we have people who shouldn't be online coaches being online coaches. But, that's just part of the game.
Of course, that's in any business, though.
Facts. So you got into First Form. What did you start as when you started working at First Form? It was just an entry level sales position.
Yeah, so really when I came into First Form was when we started to launch our kind of like partnership Legionnaire athlete program.
Hmm.
And so Sal, the interesting thing at the time, there's 10 of us total that worked for the brand.
That's
And
wild.
so, yes, I was in an entry level role, but really every single day, everybody did everything.
Hmm.
We would all make sales calls, we'd answer customer service emails, 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we'd all go back to the warehouse. We'd pack the orders for the day, pack them up, put them on the truck, clean up the warehouse. And, then every weekend we'd travel somewhere and we'd work events for the brand. Like that was just what everybody did. We've never really been, I would say, a little bit more structured in today's environment. Obviously, we've progressed a lot from people have roles and people have different departments that they fall into. In the beginning, it was very loose as far as, there was no real titles anybody had. We all just were hired. And we just did this together every single day. And it was really, hey, every day we'd meet, we'd talk about it. What do we need to do today? What are things we could try today? Because we're failing forward of like, how do we do this? How do we, in this, category of supplement companies that at the time were really only brands that were going out and sponsoring whoever the next Olympia winner was, bodybuilder, was to promote their products. Like that was the majority of what was happening in that era. And paying somebody to promote your brand and say, hey, I took this to get all these amazing results, which was rarely ever true. And so for us, it was really, hey, we don't want to be that. We don't want to be this company that's just, paying people to promote the products, to make false claims, to hopefully get people to buy the product one time. Like our whole goal was, how do we truly build this brand as a brand that's one, backed on making the top quality products that can be made, but two, backing that up with the education and service that people deserve when they're making those choices. Not trying to trick people into, hey, you know what, drink this energy drink and it's going to change your life and do all these amazing things. It's an energy drink. Is it great? Yes, it's great. I love it. I use it every single day. But it's not going to change my life and it's not going to change anybody's life. Well, let's be honest about that. That's supplements in general. They are not essential. Nobody needs supplements to make their way through life. You can get great results without them. They're just tools. And so our whole goal was, how do we teach people the foundations of nutrition, of training, and teach people where to plug those gaps with supplements that's going to help them stay on track with what their macros are, getting enough protein, getting enough micronutrients in, supplementing where they need, and actually delivering the results that they're looking for, of losing weight, building muscle, recovering better, and helping people the right way. And if we do that enough, okay, well, those people will get results, and those people will stick around, and those people will talk about us, and those people will bring other people to us, and we will grow this over time. So really, in the beginning, that's what we were working on is, going out. Nobody knew who we were, and it was every weekend we'd travel to different CrossFit competitions and bodybuilding competitions, and could have been a local 5K for all it mattered. But hey, how do we go get ourselves in front of people in the community? How do we build great relationships? How do we add value through teaching them things about nutrition, training, supplementation? And how do we let them try the products? And outside of us just doing it, how do we go find other amazing people that believe in the same things we believe in all across the country that can also be those leaders in their local communities doing it the right way?
Yeah. And that's really the biggest thing that sets First Form apart from any other supplement in business, especially when you guys first started, is that, like you said, all of them were, hey, let's sponsor this athlete. This athlete doesn't even take our products, but he's going to say that he takes our products. This fixes your gut, builds muscle, builds testosterone. It's like, no, First Form actually educates you on, hey, these are the foundations that you need in order to see results, but these supplements can fill the gaps if you have them.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And that's, for us, like always been kind of the messaging we've had, whether it's, obviously us talking about the products, we're helping somebody in the app, whatever it is, it's leading with that transparency that, hey, you don't need any of these things. These are just tools, these are just resources. And then leading by example with that, like, yes, you don't need them. Unfortunately, most of us live crazy lifestyles and it's hard. It's hard to get all of your protein through whole food alone. Like I don't feel like it most days. So when I don't want to have chicken or beef or fish or whatever it is, okay, yeah, I use a scoop of, level 1 or Formula 1 or whatever it is. And it makes it easier for me to get that piece in. And it just, taking the average person that doesn't know a lot and is filled with all kinds of misinformation, and how do you just focus on teaching that person the basics that's actually going to help them change their life? When I got started, we might have had, I don't know, 8 or 10 different products. Now we have, I don't know, probably closer to 100 products. As we've grown and evolved, we were very much in the, I would say, sports, specifics, fitness specific products in the beginning. And obviously, as we've evolved and gotten older and had kids and all the different things, different passions, our product line has expanded so we can help more and more people. But it's still that core thing, for the majority of the message we're talking about, we focus on protein, calories, water, movement. Like, how do we, for the average person, master those four things? And if we can do those four things consistently, regardless whether that's all whole food or they're working supplements in, that person's going to get way better results than the average person. If we can master the basics, then we can move on to some more advanced things where we're talking about specific training programs or different dieting techniques or more supplements that we want to add in to get little improvements here and there.
And I think one of the biggest things that helped you guys, or that you helped the world with, is I think the Legionnaire program was so different from anything else that was ever done before. And I truly believe that it's something that built what influencing is today, because
sure.
It was literally just customers talking about their experience with the products and how obsessed they were with not just the products, but the culture, the core values, the mission, what First Phorm is all about. And it gets to the point now today, like when you go to Summer Smash, people are standing in line to get a First Phorm tattoo because they're so in love with what you guys are about.
Isn't that crazy?
It's awesome.
I do. I love it. It still baffles me. I think that was maybe like 4 years ago, we started bringing the tattoo artists to the event, because at the time we'd have some customers or, athletes or whoever get a First Phorm tattoo. And we're like, that's crazy. I can't believe somebody would put our logo on their body permanently. And then one of our internal team members are like, hey, we should give out free tattoos of, First Phorm logos at Summer Smash. And it was like, I don't know, maybe like $5,000 for the tattoo artist. I was like, it's not worth it. Like, nobody's going to do that. Like, we might get one or two people, but like, it's not going to be that, many people that even want to do that. But, more people on the team were for it than against us. We're like, all right, let's do it. And that first year, which would have probably been like, I don't know, maybe 2022, there was a line the entire time. The guy ran out of ink. He had to end up telling like people, hey, I can't do anymore. I don't have any more supplies. But for the entire event, there was a line of people waiting to get those tattoos. And that's been every year, which is, for me, I think super cool.
Yeah, because that really just speaks to the culture of First Phorm. And that's really the thing that I believe sets you guys apart from everyone else is, yes, the education, yes, the Legionnaire program, but the culture, the core values, what you guys stand for. It's not even like you can talk about it outside of fitness and nutrition. It's just making better people.
Yeah. Well, and that starts really, Sal and Andy both talk about that a lot, but for us internally, that's where we always start is our team here at HQ. The goal is, and we're not, under the illusion that every single person that comes here is going to spend their life with us and be an entrepreneur and build this amazing career. Like, some people will be here for a season, and that's okay. We have had interns here all summer, that have no goal to come work here full time. They just want a part of that culture. They want to understand it. They want to get the experience. And for us, it starts with, hey, for our internal team, our goal baseline is, whenever they leave here, they're better than when they started here. Because we understand that ripple effect that happens. If we can focus on making quality people here, we can help raise those standards and we can help, reset expectations that we all have for ourselves and start to believe in ourselves more. Okay, well, that doesn't just stay here at HQ or within our roles. That goes back into our homes and our families and our friends and our little communities that we have, and that slowly ripples out to the people around them. And as an extension of that, no different than what you're talking about with the Legionnaire program, like, we have a whole team of people here all day, every day that are working with those individuals to take the same things that we talk about here every single day and the standards we have and the culture that we have. And our entire goal with those individuals is, how do we help them become that leader to their community, whether that's online or in person, and take those same standards and push it out there. Like, I know you've as many people that come here, you walk into the gym and it's amazing to see all of the weights, logo up and down in the right place, spotless every single time.
It literally looks like nobody has ever worked out in the gym when you walk into the gym.
For sure. And we have no cleaning, crew that does that. Like, that is the internal team holding that standard that we have here. And everybody makes comments about that. Like, oh, this is so amazing. I wish my gym was like that. Or your gym could be like that. But it takes somebody setting that standard and holding that standard time and time again. And again, in the beginning, Caitlin, let's say it's you in your gym, like, it's only you. Well, you could do a pretty good job in your garage gym. But let's say you're going to a regular gym. It's only you. And that's where I think people get, discouraged, because they're putting the weights back the right way. And while they're doing it, they're seeing everybody else just leave them out or, come use it again and put it back the wrong way. And they feel like, why am I even doing this? This is never going to make an impact. However, if they did that every single day, people would start to take notice of those things. Other people would start to do the same things. And then over time, you reset the entire standard of whatever the gym, the office place, whatever it is that we're talking about is. But it just takes that discipline to doing it. And over time, that ripple effect slowly making the impact on other people. And most people, they don't want that. They want just like Instagram, they want the instant gratification today. I want the end result today. I want to be the CEO today. I want to make all the money today. I want to, make the most profit on this product today. And they don't want to play the long game of investing in something and letting that compounding happen over time.
Absolutely. I was actually having a conversation earlier today with somebody who was just reaching out asking for advice on fitness. And he was like, oh, well, I've been weighing my food. I'm tracking my food. I'm hitting my protein goal. I'm doing my workouts. I don't know what's going on. I'm not losing weight. I don't feel like I'm changing. And my first question was, well, how long have you been doing it for consistently? And he said, I don't know, maybe like 2 weeks. I've had a couple off days, but 2 weeks. And I'm like, I just was like, it takes longer than you want it to take. It takes longer than you think it's going to take, but stay consistent. Even on the days where you don't want to show up, like keep the commitments you make to yourself regardless of how you feel, because the problem I see is that people let emotions take over their actions or
For
dictate
sure.
their actions,
Yeah, 100%. Do you know the story of the Chinese bamboo tree?
I have heard of it, yes.
Okay, I love that story. It is a story that we've used often, especially early on in the organization as we were doing different team meetings. But the reason I love that, and I'll tell it for anybody that's maybe listening after and doesn't know the story. But what I love about the Chinese bamboo tree is, again, it's just factually how the plant grows. It's not some made up thing in the self help world to sound good. But if you plant the Chinese bamboo tree, the seed, well, you have to water and fertilize it every single day, and no different than the person you were talking to that's only been doing it for 2 weeks and not seeing any results. Like most people are impatient. And so, after a couple weeks, nothing's happening, you get impatient, and you just give up on it and nothing ever happens. Well, again, with the Chinese bamboo tree, you have to do that for 4 or 5 years. And in that first 4 or 5 years, nothing ever happens with the tree. There's not a sprout that comes up. You don't see any visual growth happening. But the cool thing is, as you get to that 4 or 5th year, as soon as it does sprout, it'll grow 80 feet within 6 weeks' time. It can grow up to 39 inches in a single day. You can literally watch the plant grow if you sit there and watch it, which
That's
is
crazy.
amazing to think about. And so the question then you have to ask is, okay, well, does the bamboo tree grow 80 feet in, the matter of 6 weeks, or is it over the course of 5 years? And of course, the obvious answer is it's over the 5 years. But what most people don't see, and this is the reverse side of your friend in the dieting and workout side of it, the first 4 years, it's just building the root, the foundation that it needs to be able to withstand 80 feet of growth in a short period of time. If it is to do that without the root system, well, as soon as the wind blows, it falls over. Like you have to go through the building phase of building a strong enough foundation to withstand all of the hardships and things that are going to come along. And again, why I love that analogy so much, that is everything in life, whether it's in fitness, whether it's in your career, whether it's in your relationships. Like it takes, to your point, Sal says this all the time, it's going to be way harder than you think, and it's going to take way longer than you think. But something that we talk about internally and something that Andy and Sal have both helped me with tremendously is you are far more capable than what you give yourself credit for. But most of the time, again, why I think inherently we understand like great things take time, great things take hard work. Like we know those things internally, but at the same time, we want it now. We don't want to pay that price. We want to be the lottery winner exception to the rule and have this easy path, or we at least think we do. And truly, when I reflect on my life, I reflect on my career, I reflect on my relationships, nothing that is of value to me has been fast or easy. It has always been the things that I've worked extremely hard for, had to overcome adversity for, and I've earned it the hard way over time. And so, again, just like like that analogy, that's where most people give up though. Whether it's careers, relationship, fitness. Fitness is not hard. This is truly what I love about what we do. And this is the ironic thing for me in bodybuilders. Like bodybuilders get it so well in the
Mm-hmm.
gym. They're so disciplined. You pack all your food, you weigh all your food, you eat all your food, you work on your rest and recovery, you go to the gym, you work out, you progressively overload yourself. It takes years, if not decades, to become great in that sport. And there's so many people I've seen in that industry that become great in the sport, but cannot translate any of that back to the real life business success side of it. And what I mean by that is they can't have that same discipline over here in every other aspect of their life.
Yes.
But if you took the same foundation that it takes to be successful in fitness and you mirror that into your career, your relationship, anything, that is the recipe for success. Like, how long have you been working out, Caitlin?
Since I was like 14, 15.
Are you the peak of fitness?
I am definitely not. I'd like to think I am, though,
Why are you still working out then?
Man, because I would probably run someone over with my car if I didn't. But no, it makes me a better person, right? And that's the thing is it's so when you're in it and when you do it for a long period of time, you realize that, man, it's really hard. It's tough. It's like every day I go into my garage and I suffer just to maybe get 0.0001% better. But
Maybe.
there is no better feeling than finishing a really hard session and being like, I just did that. There's nothing that brings me more peace than that. And people want to say the hard work is miserable, but really the hard work is what provides you with the happiness that you're looking for, but you're looking at it the wrong way.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. And that's where, again, like you get it and a lot of people get it in fitness because you continue to show up and you do it, even though you're not getting these amazing results overnight. To your point, maybe through the hard workout, you get 0.0001% better today. And that's a maybe. I don't even know. I don't even know if
Yeah.
that's the actual amount that you get better. It feels like
Sometimes I feel like I get worse.
for sure. Absolutely. But you continue forward down that path, because you believe in and are passionate about the end result and it's a worthwhile thing to chase. I would say for me, pre having a child, a lot more vain in my training style and in it for how I look mostly, how I look, how I perform. We do a lot of team workouts. I want to win always. Like that's all it was about. I want to look good. I want to be able to perform well. And that's it, well, especially now having a child, the health and wellness piece is a much greater piece of that. Well, I want to live a long life. I want to be there for all of her life events and maybe future kids' life events. I want to be able to do things with them and be a great role model, for my child. And that's just another layer for me that, drives me every single day for me, most days, I don't want to go to my garage gym at all.
Yeah, I know that.
4:30 this morning, and the last thing I want to do is get out of bed. It would be way better to hit snooze because especially if I look at it factually, like what's it really going to change if I do it or don't do it today? I'm going to go to work out today when I don't want to do it. And I'm not going to look any better today. I'm not going to notice any difference today. So I might as well sleep. And I think in all realities, whether it's fitness or career or relationship, like that's the problem. It's not hard. It's not complicated. It's just easier not to do it.
Yep. It's just
people-
as easy to make it happen though. And I think that what a lot of people, what they look at is they say, oh, well, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. And they tomorrow their whole life away and they realize, oh, shoot, I ran out of time.
For sure. Or they get in such a bad place that it's so hard to even get started.
Yeah, because most people, everybody, we don't gain 50 pounds overnight. It happens because every single day we made a decision that took us further away from becoming a better version of ourselves. But the same thing could be on the other side. It's the small things done consistently over time, not compound to create massive change, but it could create shit change or it could create great change depending on what you're doing.
Yeah. Andy talked about it on his podcast a long time ago, and we talk about it a lot internally. Show me your last 1,000 days, and I'll show you exactly why you are where
It's
you
like
are.
the best episode of Real AF. 1,000 days.
Yeah, for sure. But that is the truth of the matter that nobody wants to accept. It is. It's one of the standards we have here is reading 10 pages a day of a personal development nonfiction book, just that daily little investment of time of, hey, I'm going to get a little bit better today. And it's the same as fitness. Most people don't do it because, well, I'm not going to read anything today and it's not going to radically change my life tomorrow. But yet over 1,000 days of reading with intention, of not just reading with intention, but taking the things you're learning and actually implementing them is the more important piece of that. That consistent action over the course of 1,000 days in a focused direction, you can accomplish a lot, just like you can accomplish a lot in fitness. You're not going to get better today, but over the 1,000 days of dedicated training, with intent in some sort of direction, you can become really good. You can get into the top 1 percentile of whatever that is, whether you're trying to get into bodybuilding, into CrossFit, into high rocks and endurance. Like, you can become, relatively, very successful in that with that amount of time.
Mm-hmm. And it really comes down to also, like, it impacts you if you make the decision to not do it. People don't realize that is like the mental ramifications of it, because you start to break commitments that you make to yourself. And if you break a commitment to yourself, you lose confidence little by little. And most people they break commitments to themselves. And that's why they're in the position that they're in.
For sure. I had this conversation with my internal team. It's probably been a couple months ago. And I still waiting for you to show up to one of our Wednesday night workouts here.
I'm waiting. Jared said that he's going to kill me one day, so I'm waiting for it. I'll probably die, so.
You just got to show up. That's it. 5 o'clock Central Time Wednesday, you be here and we'll put you through it.
I'll just show up one day. Text Jarrett, be like, I'm outside. Let me in. I want to die.
Let's go. You make it here during the summer. We can just do the death by sled push outside in the nice Missouri heat.
Man, I love that.
But with our workouts, and the one thing I love about every week, just once a week, we make sure to get together as a team and we're going to do something nasty together and we're going to push each other. And for me, I got a little heated with the team in one of the workouts, just verbally yelling at some people during the workouts. And there was a couple newer people on the team that didn't like it a lot, and that's okay. I understand. I probably wasn't being super nice. But I came back to the team, in our next team meeting, and I just asked. I was like, hey, guys, why do you think I do that? And most of them kind of give I would say, maybe polite answer, or, well, it's because you believe in us and you want us to be better. And certainly those things are true. I do. Something that Danny has taught me. I can see way more potential in people than people see in themselves, because that's the path I walked. I know my thoughts early on and what I believed and what I didn't believe. And you don't just get this great belief overnight. You incrementally get it as you earn it through those hard things. You start believing, I did that workout, to your point, and I'm okay. I can survive that. Okay, I can do more than I thought. So that's a part of it. But I kept asking and nobody was really getting the answer I was looking for. And I told them, I was like, look, guys, those are all true statements that you're saying. But the main reason I yell at you is because internally I'm yelling at myself. When I see some of you starting to not give it your all in the workout, all you're doing is tempting me to also not do everything I can. And the more of you that I allow to just kind of take it easy, you're still working out. You're doing the workout. You're just not giving it everything you've got. And if I'm okay with you doing it slowly, my internal dialogue of working out is not healthy. It's not good. It's always bad. I don't want to do it. I'm always mad about doing it. I'm always in my mind, Aaron, just quit. Aaron, just act like you did the reps. That is inside of my brain all the time. And so for me, I know if I get onto the team and I'm pushing them, well, then I certainly can't back off. And that was my point to the team, is look, guys, I'm holding you accountable because I know if I hold you accountable to giving it everything you've got, I can't back off. And internally, I want to back off. I don't want to push it. I crave comfort every single day in every single way. I don't want to do these things. And if I'm okay with you doing it, then it's just making it easier for me to pull into that side of it as well. And so, yes, I do believe in you. And yes, I do want great things for you. But selfishly, I'm doing it for myself. Because if I don't hold you accountable, I'm not going to hold myself accountable.
Yeah, and that's what it takes to be a great leader, is to, one, lead by example, but two, hold your team accountable while holding yourself accountable.
For sure. And again, that's it. I think a special part about here is I don't think that's a common thing in most workplaces, that, again, maybe outside of your boss holding you accountable is something you need to do, but to have, I would say, peer-to-peer leadership around you. And that goes back to the standards we have in the gym. And for those of you that maybe listen to this, nobody's in charge of the gym. There's no gym police. There's no structure. It doesn't matter if it's Sal, the CEO in the gym, or if it's the newest person there. We're all the same in the gym. But everybody has to hold each other accountable to making sure we put everything back. We straighten the weights. We put the logos up and down. And if Sal doesn't do it, who's the CEO of the organization? Well, guess what? the newest person on the team that sits there and they see that, it is their responsibility to correct that. And we try to instill that in people early on, because that is why we are a great team, is because everybody is willing to call out when we're not doing things to the best that we could do it, or we're not following the standards that we talk about as a team. And to your point, and what I was trying to communicate through the story of holding the team accountable, like that's what it takes. That's how great culture is built, and that is also how great culture is eroded. Is as soon as you stop that accountability and people aren't willing to call each other on their BS, like that is where it just starts to erode, because everybody's standard starts to come down.
It really does come down to standards when it comes to anything in life, is what I've learned over my years. And I think it's less about setting the standard, but more about holding the standard, because setting the standard is a wish, but holding it is an action. So as far as standards go, what are some standards or non-negotiables that you have for yourself on a daily basis that help you and have helped you over the last 13 years grow your career?
That's a great question. I would say it has changed over time, but
especially with having a child, I bet.
Yes, yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
Having a child certainly has changed things, but I think something I'm very blessed with is I have an amazing wife who also, like we just have similar beliefs, and we don't use those as excuses. And again, we hold each other accountable to those things. Like back to the fitness piece, like us getting up and working out together, starting our day that way is a big piece for us. We don't always feel like doing that. Rarely ever do we feel like doing it, but whenever one of the two of us is trying to let's just do it later, we'll do it tomorrow, the other person has to step in and be like, nope, we're going to do this, even if it's not this crazy workout, we're going to go down to the gym, we're going to take Sloan with us, and we might just be doing some cardio today, but we have to initiate the process of getting it started. And as with most anything, like that's the hardest part, is just getting started.
Mm-hmm.
For me, and that's my easy way to let myself off the hook, but still make progress. Is like, if I don't really feel like going and pushing the gym, okay, well, instead of just completely not doing this, I'm gonna go walk on the treadmill for 30 minutes. Because I know as soon as I start walking on the treadmill, I'm like, I'll jog a little bit. And then when I'm jogging, I'm like, I'll run a little bit. Then I start running a little bit, and then I start feeling good, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'm gonna do some bicep curls. I'm doing some bicep curls, like, okay, I'm gonna do a little lat pull downs. And then that feeling, it catches up with you when you're in action with that piece of it. And so like for me, having a great wife that supports me, that pushes me as much as I push her, that's a great piece for me. So like, the physical movement's always a standard, that we have just as a family. Changes for us for sure in different seasons of life, how we're training, what we're doing, whether that's running. We just did a high rocks race a little while, back together. So we trained for that together. But that daily movement, daily exercise is one of those standards for sure. Reading, education, personal development, another huge piece for me. Every single day, I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to get better. Obviously, in today's landscape of business and obviously what we do and social media and all the things, like things change fast, things change rapidly. You look at AI and what's happened just over the last 5 years, like it is crazy how fast things are moving. And truly, if you're not staying on top of that, and I mean, you don't have to spend all day every day, but every day, whether I'm reading a book, I'm watching a video, I'm reading an article online, like constantly spend a little bit of time every single day just trying to not only continue to firm up the foundation of the skills that I have and keeping those sharp, but also, looking into just being curious, of different things, reading things, and taking notes of those things.
Mm-hmm.
I have
always be learning, right?
It is. It's one of our core values. But I have a notebook that I keep track of, like all of those little takeaway points, and I'm big on filing things away. Because whether it's, I need it now, or, hey, this could come in handy down the road, I try to earmark those things, whether it's, writing a takeaway out of a book, copying an article that I had, or whatever it is, to just, have in my repertoire to go back to when I need those things. Faith is a big thing for my wife and I both, so we try to be very intentional with our time. This is where, having a child has certainly changed that. Like I would say our ideal standard is we wake up, we spend a little time getting in the Word, reading the Bible, doing a devotional together. Doesn't always play out that way. Like this morning, got up at 4:30. We were going to try to get some stuff done, hoping our daughter sleeps till 6 a.m. Well, she's up at, 4:45, and makes it a little hard to do those things. So, sometimes that's pivoted and changed in the days. But I think outside of work, moving my body, investing in learning more, investing in my faith, and then always trying to take some time to invest in my family and in our my wife, my daughter, our relationship are like the biggest standards that kind of keep me centered and allow me to be my best when it comes to my career and the people I need to serve and lead in the process.
Absolutely. No, I love that. I love that so much, especially because you're taking every single pillar. It's not just like I'm focused on work or education or fitness, but I'm also focused on faith and family, which a lot of people overlook as spiritual health being so important and social health being so important to overall health.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And again, like I'm not perfect at any of those things. There's days that I fail on those things, and it's typically in pockets. Like I'll be really good at three out of the four, and then I'm not doing well on the other one. But something my wife and I specifically have been trying to be better at lately over the last 18 months of having our daughter in our life, just not having as much free time and a little bit crazier is just a couple times a week sitting down and having some honest conversations of how are we doing in those areas and where are we falling short and how can we improve, how can we support each other in those things, to have that accountability and keep you on track because it's easy to do and it's easy not to do.
Absolutely. That's something actually me and my husband have recently started doing is like every Saturday we'll do some sort of activity together because he's working a lot during the week. And then after that, we'll just kind of sit and we'll talk about, okay, well, what are we working on? How's life? Like all of these things to make sure that we're holding each other accountable to not just becoming better, but becoming the person that we said we would want to become.
Yeah, and it's something I think maybe is important to talk about here. I'm not sure audience of who typically listens to this, but Tim Grover talked about this one time, and it really stuck with me. Like, I think there's this large yearning for balance in your life,
Hmm.
and you talk about those standards that I have in my fitness, in my family, in my faith, in my health and wellness, my career. Like, those are all important things to me, but it's never equally weighted, and it's never been that way. And that's okay.
Hmm.
Again, for me, and something that, if there's any younger individuals that are not in a committed relationship now, like it's one thing I encourage people to do is like, hey, make sure you choose a great partner, a partner that shares the same vision that you want out of your life. Make sure you know what that vision you want out of your life is before you get into that situation, because having a partner that has opposing thoughts, beliefs, direction they want their life in, that makes it difficult. And so again, like that's where I'm very grateful. I spent a lot of time early on in my career here at First Form just focusing on myself and focusing on my career and being in a good spot and building again that foundation that I need to be firm in before I then brought somebody else in my life and now having a child into my life. And for my wife and I specifically, like you know our life was heavily only career focused, I would say, for the first 8 years of our relationship. We'd go to work all day, we would come home, we'd eat dinner, we would work more, and we would go to sleep, and we just every single day, same thing. Now having a daughter, like, okay, well, that's changed. Still, both of us equally committed to our careers, to what we're doing. She's building an amazing, business for herself and her physical therapy practice and the people she has there. Obviously, we have big goals here that we're working on every single day, but also understanding, okay, well, I'm never going to get this time back with our daughter. We're never going to get this time back. So when we're home, while I'm going to spend more time here with our team internally and at First Form than I will at home with my wife and my daughter, when I'm there, I need to be 100% in there. And it might not be the balance in time, but from the seasons we're in and being where our feet are and being focused on those things and being present on those things are really for us the biggest pieces of that. And I think that's what a lot of people struggle with. They try to make everything equal from the time and energy and effort they put into everything. And unfortunately, life just doesn't work that way. Like if you want to have great things in all of those areas, you're going to have to invest the time to build that. And that's not always going to be easy or convenient.
I'm so glad that you said that because that is something that's super important for people to understand. Because again, social media likes to make it look like, oh, well, you have to have balance. And people always ask me, well, I can't find balance. I'm like, balance is kind of, it doesn't really truly exist, especially if you want to be really good at something. Like you
For
said,
sure.
there were times where in your relationship you guys were working a ton. Like that's me and my husband right now. It's like, hey, I'm working. Okay, cool. I see you. Like I'm gonna do my thing. I'm gonna work. Like I respect it. But when we're together, we're together. We're present. We're not on our phones, doing bullshit. We're actually with each other.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's, again, a lot of frustration, I believe, comes from a mismanagement mismanagement of expectations. And when you
Yes.
expect to be able to equally invest, I'm just only going to go to work for 4 hours a day. I'm going to invest 4 hours into this and 4 hours into this, and that you're going to somehow be great at any of those things and accomplish these great things. Like that's what creates that internal frustration, because you think and you want all of this to happen, but if you reverse engineer those things, you're not giving it the time and attention and effort that it needs to be great at that thing. So and that's fine too. Like not everybody wants to be great at whatever it is they're doing, and that is completely okay as long as you accept that, and like that's you're okay with that outcome. Then okay, then that's perfectly cool too. But taking time to think of, before you say this is what I want and I get my thoughts and hopes wrapped around it, like I've got to break that down and really look at, well, what does it take to be great at that? Great in my relationship, great as a dad, great in my career, great in my fitness. And am I willing to pay the cost, or am I willing to not? And accepting it just at that piece of it.
Yeah, I think having that honest conversation with yourself and saying, well, what am I willing to do and what am I not willing to do? And being completely open and transparent with yourself about that, instead of saying, well, I want to win, I want to be great at this, but then being unwilling to actually do what it takes to be great and just being in love with the idea of it.
Yep. Yep. 100%. That's for our internal team, the individuals that I get to work with every single day. Like that's one of the things we really try to work on, is like just, again, goals are important, and that's great to have big goals, but more important than the goal, because everybody, if you ask them if they want to make more money or they want a promotion in their job or they want a better relationship, they want to look better, of course they want those things. But it really doesn't matter if you want it. It's, okay, well, what does it take to get it? And more importantly, can I commit to doing that for consistently for a long period of time to accomplish it? And am I okay with that price? Because everything is going to come with a price. Me investing in my career, it comes with a price. I have missed many things in my life, in my family and friends and hobbies and things I could have done. But for me, creating success here, setting my future family up for success, being able to take care of my extended family was more important than in my 20s going to the bar every night and going to the lake every weekend and learning golf and having all of these hobbies and doing all of these things that really didn't matter to me.
Yeah. So whenever I do any sort of run, I always listen to Andy, because I feel like listening to Andy while you're doing any sort of physical activity is probably the best thing you can do for that form of physical activity. Training the mind while you're training the body. So
That's right.
one thing that he said that literally stand out to me was like, it takes what it fucking takes. And I
Yep.
think that a lot of people overlook that. They think, oh, well, if I can find the hack to do it like this, or I can be the exception, kind of to what we were alluding to earlier. But at the end of the day, it takes what it fucking takes. So are you willing to do it or not, really?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's it, but I think the timepiece of that, and this is where for me and my respect for Amy and Chris specifically in our organization comes into play, because to the point of, you're far more capable than what you give yourself credit for, but most people give up when it's too hard. I don't know two individuals that have been through so much failure to create so much success. And for people that don't know Andy or Chris or Sal or any of them, or their backstories, and they just see them today and they see the cars, they see the house, they see the success, they think, oh, well, that happened overnight. Oh, they got lucky. Oh, they had somebody that financially backed them. And they don't look at the 10 years of literal failure in business to even start having any progress and success, to then put in another 16, 17 years to get to the point that they're at now. And that's where, when I spend time with somebody, or I'm really having a more intimate conversation about success with somebody, like, look, what could you accomplish in 10 years, in 25 years, if you focused and gave it everything you had every single day? Now, a lot of people aren't going to be willing to invest what Andy invested to get to where he is. And again, that's okay. But for him, that's his obligation, as he sees it, is to continue to build things and dream big enough that other people's dreams fit within it, and be so successful that he can make a large impact, not just on the people that he employs and their families, but for somebody listening to his podcast and changing him mentally. He doesn't need to come show up and record his podcast every single day. He doesn't even make a single dollar off of it. He does it because he knows that he's no different than them. He just was willing to do whatever it took and show up day after day after day after day when everybody told him he should quit.
And the amount of adversity that that man has been through, like everything outside of business, inside of business, it's every time I hear the stories, it's absolutely crazy. And it really shows me that you are capable of anything, regardless of where you came from.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Well, yeah, awesome. Well,
That it's just, it's almost a noble thing in today's day and age of playing the poor me card and, talking about all my disadvantages of, using that as a cop out. Which, if you really took time to dig into whatever the adversity is that you're facing, I promise you, I could go find somebody that has had more adversity in a harder life that has been able to overcome those things and make a tremendous impact. It doesn't matter whether we're talking financial success or we're talking about impact on people's lives, doing great things. Like, people are capable of accomplishing amazing things, but it's are you willing to pay the cost and do whatever it takes to get it?
yeah, it's kind of like there's two camps of people who say, I can't do this because this happened to me. And then the other group is, I can do this because this happened to me. It's up to you. Are you going to let something happen to you or for you?
For sure,
hmm
absolutely.
Yeah, I was having that conversation with, do you know Chris Rowan?
Yeah, of course I know Chris Rowan.
Who doesn't, right? We were having this conversation because he reposted one of my stories yesterday where I was talking about this victimhood mentality stuff that's like contagious on social media. And one of the things that I highlighted was every single time that I see somebody who's literally just crying on social media, like boo me, here's my like sob story. It's like, I don't care about what you've been through, what you're going through. I care about what you're doing to overcome that or what you've done to overcome that.
Yep. Yeah. I don't know if you're very aware of what we do at 30 for the Kids in the orphanage over in Haiti.
Yeah, of course.
So one of the reasons I love that portion of our business and being involved with that, because for me that always helps me with that.
Yeah.
I think having perspective is a great thing for that, like, little bitch voice, as Andy would call it, but the woe is me kind of mentality is when you've been places like that. Again, every time we go to the orphanage over in Haiti, you get off the plane, you take the truck into the orphanage, and as you're driving through, like, you'll just see, heaps of trash. Like, they don't even have, the area the orphanage is in. There's not trash services. Nobody's coming to pick up the trash. They just throw the trash down. They pile it up in heaps, and eventually they burn it or cover it up or whatever it is. And you'll
hmm
see little babies, little kids rummaging through it, just looking for something to eat that are literally starving and dying. And all kinds of terrible situations that you see there. But the one thing you don't see there is people sitting around moping and playing the poor me card. They are doing everything they can to live another day in extreme adversity. And they're also some of the most kindest and generous people that I have ever had the fortune to meet. You got kids that are starving that are running around in a open field, with like a milk jug that they're using as a soccer ball. Some of them no clothes on, no
hmm
shoes on. There's rocks all over, and they're just smiling. They're grateful to be alive today. And so for me, when I'm having a bad day, when I'm thinking, oh, I'm stressed out about, something we're facing or something I'm going through, like, those are the little kids I think about. Because I think my worst day would be the best day that kid would ever live. And I try to stay focused on that. And again, back to the, standards that I have, spending some time in gratitude every single day and just taking time to recognize that. Again, whether it's in my relationship with my wife or our daughter or the things we've been able to accomplish, all of the little things. The fact that I have clean drinking water, that I can go to the fridge and get water when I'm thirsty, or I have snacks in the cabinet I can grab. Like, we take so many of those things for granted, and we play this game where we see all of the success of other people online. We let it rob us of our own gratitude that we have for all the amazing things we have in our life. And so for me, like, it's having that and experiencing that and having that perspective that helps keep me grounded in the situation. And when adversity hits or bad things happen, it's not the world's against me or God hates me. It's, look, bad things happen to people all the time. I can't control that. What can I control? What is the next best decision that I can make right now? And how do I do that? Whether I feel like doing it or not, what's the next best thing I could do? If it was my daughter in this situation, what would I want her to do? Okay, well, how do I do that? And I think it's just a powerful thing that unfortunately a lot of people lack that perspective. They've never experienced that. And they spend too much time focusing on what everybody else has and idolizing that, when the truth of the matter is, just like the Chinese bamboo tree, like you don't know that person's backstory. You don't know all of the things they went through. You don't know what's happening in real life. There's people I've looked up to on social media and their relationship or their success that I think they're this amazing person. And then whether I get to know them or something comes out, and none of those things are true.
Hmm.
But you make up this story in your head that you think you know the entire story and all the facts and what it's like, and you don't know any of those things. So I understand where people get trapped in that mentality, but having the perspective and just being grateful for the things you do have, it's okay to aspire to want more, to get better, but don't compare where you're at with somebody else's life. They might be on mile 20, you're on mile 1. You could do anything you want moving forward, but you have to be willing to do the hard work that most of those people had to do as well.
Absolutely. And that's something that I've always struggled with, is like comparing myself to other people, especially on social media. And what I've learned over the past couple of years is like, I mean, I'm me. I'm not for everybody. That's okay. And I'm just going to focus on my journey and not compare myself to where somebody is who's put in 20 more years of work than I have.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's, you should use that
Yes.
as motivation, inspiration. Those are all good things.
Hmm.
You look at it that way.
Yeah. It
'Cause
shows me what's possible.
that for me has changed my life of opening up my imagination for what is possible. And so I think it is a good thing, but you just have to keep that perspective of, like, hey, nothing great's going to happen, just by chance or overnight or quick or because you didn't work for it. Like those things are all possible for you if you're willing to do the work to achieve it.
Absolutely. Now, one of the final questions I want to ask you here is, if there's somebody who's listening to this and they feel stuck where they're at, whether it's they want to make a change in their fitness and their career, but they don't know what to do, they don't know what next step to take, what would you tell to that person who's maybe afraid to take action?
Oh, that's a complicated question to answer. What
Loaded.
would I tell that person? Obviously, I think it changes based on what it is they're stuck in and they're trying to do, because I think there are things that are easier or harder to accomplish. But there's very few things in life where you're truly stuck. I think that's where it starts. Is people feel stuck, but they're not really stuck. It kind of goes back to our conversation of they're just afraid to pay the price, and they're afraid that they're going to make this change, or they're going to do all this work and it's not actually going to get them what they want in life. And so I think the first piece of that, regardless of what the thing is we're trying to accomplish, is spending some time to really break that down and, one, understand, do I really want this? If I had to show up and do this, work on this every single day for 1,000 days and not have any change, would I be okay with living my life that way? And for me, again, back to my career, in the first 4 years of really no progression, at least from a financial or position or any of those things. And I tell this to my team all the time. I am way more successful, obviously, now than I was 13 years ago when I started in every aspect of my life. But why I stayed in the beginning and why I kept doing the work more than what I was paid to do is because I was just as happy then as I am now. Like I loved what I did. And I think it's a different conversation, find your passion and chase it. Like there's some of that, yes, some of that I don't fully believe in, but I do think you have to love what you do, in some regard. That doesn't mean I'm going to love it every day and that it's this extremely fun thing all the time, but you have to be interested. There has to be passion behind that. And I think when you're thinking about making a change, looking at that and does that bring me that passion? Am I passionate about that thing or that outcome? And am I willing to show up and work for it without any results? And if you can get to that place and that's a yes and a yes, well, then it's really just looking at, okay, well, what do I need to do? What is that, next best action that I can feasibly do? For me personally, in some of these conversations I have, yes, we have that all the time in fitness. I think that's a super easy answer. Like there is no situation that you're in that you can't get in better health and wellness or fitness. Like it's really very easy. I think on the career side is where I have more hard conversations about this. For somebody that's went through their life, they've got a family, they've got kids, they hate what they're doing, they want to make a change and do something completely new, but their family's reliant on them and they can't just quit their job and go all in over here. And They're going to have to spend extra time on top of their job, on top of their family, on top of all their kids' things to start building this. And it's going to take time to do that. That's a harder, I get where people feel stuck in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
But it still doesn't mean it's not possible. Like you can look at some of the most successful individuals' brands, and they're individuals that didn't start that company brand idea until later years in life. Like you are still capable of doing it, but you just have to be realistic with what you have in front of you. Okay, I only have an hour a day to devote to this. I only have 30 minutes a day to devote to this. I love talking about this fact because back to the 10 pages a day. Do you know how many books the average adult reads in a year?
No.
It's 2. And that's not descriptive or qualitative on fiction, nonfiction, any parameters. It's just books. But on the flip side, how many hours does the average adult in the U.S. watch TV per day?
It's like 4 or 5, ain't it?
4, which is 60 continuous 24-hour days throughout the year. That's 2 full months of the year you spend watching TV. And so like when you say I'm stuck and I don't have time, that's not true. I've never seen that to be true where somebody is completely maximizing their day and there's literally no time to get in better health, better fitness, start building a business for myself on the side, whatever the thing is that they want. I have not met a single person in my entire time of working with people that's truly stuck in that situation. Most of the time they've never taken the time to map out what it is they want, what they need to do to get there, and what is that first step. And I think that's the hardest thing. And most often people spend all of their time trying to build this perfect plan to do it versus just getting started. Be directionally correct. Okay, I want to get in better shape. It doesn't matter. Is it the best fitness plan? Is it the best diet? Like, what's one good decision we could start making consistently over time? Okay, let's build that as a habit. Let's do that every single day. Let's hit our protein. That's what we would teach here. Hey, I don't care about the workout plan and the perfect diet and the supplements. Let's just eat enough protein every single day. Let's start there. We're not worried about trimming out the sodas or the sugary treats or any of the things. Let's just eat enough protein every single day. Okay, well, once we've mastered that, that's a big portion of the problem. Because by just hitting that goal, eating enough protein every single day, you're going to be more satiated throughout the day. You're not going to crave all the snacks all the time. You're not going to eat all the BS. You're probably going to start seeing some better results or feeling better throughout that maybe few weeks it takes you to start doing it consistently. You do that, you have built some belief in yourself. You also start to see some of the results, so you get a little bit more motivated. Shoot, what else could I do, Aaron? Okay, well, let's just start moving our body every single day. I don't care, 30 minutes a day. Let's move our body. Let's walk, let's lift. I don't care what you do. Let's do it. Let's be consistent there. It's small actions over time. But again, everybody wants, they put on the 50 pounds over 10 years, but they want to lose it in, 30 days. And that's when people say they're stuck, I think it's just that. They're mentally stuck because even if they have weighed the odds and mapped it out, they just don't want to pay the price. And it's easier to say I'm stuck and I don't have the power to change this than to do the work that it takes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like to think of, or I like to say a lot, is that you have to be all in on something and truly commit to it. And a lot of people, unfortunately, don't know what that actually feels like to truly be all in on something. Kind of even with people who I coach and stuff, it's like, oh, well, I track my calories, I do this. Well, are you weighing your food? Well, no, not really. So it's like, do you actually know what it feels like to be all in on your goal? Because if you know what that feels like, then it kind of clicks over time. Like, okay, this is what it actually takes. And then you learn patience, and like the protein thing, it's like a catalyst for change. So like you said, like I'm more satiated. Now I see myself as, oh, maybe I'll work out. Maybe I'll do these things. It's about little things done over time, like little stair steps up.
Yeah, it's the Chinese bamboo tree. You got to build the foundation.
Absolutely.
You can't have this all overnight because you don't even have the discipline to continue those things forward. Fitness for you, for me, for a lot of people that live this lifestyle every single day, like it doesn't matter if we go through a season of stress or have a hard time, like it has become a daily habit and discipline that I'm going to choose this and do this at least more often than not, regardless of what the situation I'm in is. Well, if you don't have that, foundation, even if I could snap my fingers for somebody that's out of shape and make them perfectly in shape, well, if you put them back into their life, within a few short months, they're already going back in the wrong direction because they've never built the habits that it takes. And those habits, again, for me personally speaking, like that's decades of work of building those habits. It's small, unrecognizable improvements day after day after day that over 1,000 days you look back and be like, wow, I've made a lot of progress. I'm way better than I was. But it's slow and you don't feel that excitement all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I say that exact thing all the time. If I were to snap my fingers and hand you everything you want in life, you'll probably lose it pretty quickly because you haven't built the habits, the discipline through the journey, because the journey is what makes everything work.
Yep. Look at most lottery winners in that
Yep.
situation.
Perfect
Like
example.
that is the example. Okay, your dreams came true. You won the lottery. Most of the time, it ends in terrible outcomes.
Terrible.
Person died, person went to jail, person lost everything they had and are now in a worse financial position.
Hmm.
You didn't have the financial acumen to have that amount of money in the first place. So you make all of the same terrible decisions you've already been making. Yes, you might have it for a little bit of time, but you're just eventually going to lose that.
Yeah. And the journey's the sweetest part because it teaches you so much.
For sure. Absolutely. Well, it's what makes it worthwhile. I mean, again, if it was that easy, everybody would have it. Well, if everybody has it, then it's not special. You don't feel pride of it.
Hmm.
It is. It is the satisfaction, at least from my personal, point of view and life experience, it is through the effort that it takes to build it, the hardships that you face to get through it. Like that is what gives you that pride in that sense of accomplishment in those situations.
Absolutely, man. Aaron, this has been one of my favorite conversations I've had. I'm not just saying that because you're here. Truly has been. And I think that people who are listening, I'm sure they've taken away a ton of value. And I'm going to put all of Aaron's information down below, his social media, so you can follow him and listen to him say some, inspiring things here and there. But last thing I want to ask is what is your what is your favorite flavor of protein? Level 1 or Formula 1?
Can I
I'm
pick
putting you
clear?
on the spot. You can pick two. I'll let it happen.
Does it like, over time, long-standing favorite or favorite currently?
Let's do both.
Okay. Well, favorite currently, is Formula One clear iced tea mixed with 1 scoop of iced tea mixed with the lemonade. A little
I got to try it. I got the apple juice one up here, but I haven't tried the sweet tea one yet.
Funny enough, I have only had the apple juice when we taste tested it through that process. I have not actually had it myself. I'm not a big apple juice person.
Yeah. It literally tastes like apple juice, like hands down.
The tea and lemonade, that's probably my favorite combo. Post workout, regardless, yes, we could get into specifics and when you should use isolates and concentrates, but
Yeah.
for me primarily, I like to use Formula One Clear just because it's easy, it's light, whether I need it after my workout and it's refreshing, or it's the end of the day and I'm behind on protein, I need to get 40 grams in quick. It's just super simple for me to mix up. Best of all time.
If we're going best of all time, man, ice cream sandwich, RIP.
RIP. Here's the funny story though. I had never really, when I first started for Supplement Superstores, I thought I knew a lot about supplements and fitness because, again, sports, fitness, I was a personal trainer through college, typical bro, though, in the gym. Like, I thought I knew so much. I really didn't know anything. Didn't know a lot about difference of quality of protein. Like, I was the, how can I buy the biggest bag of protein at the cheapest, price per serving user? Have to blend it up in the blender just to make it, ingestible. Buy it at supplementwarehouse.com back in the day, discounted, like that is who I was. And so when I first started using First Form products, like I had never had products that tasted so good, mixed up so easily. And when I was in college and First Form was starting to make protein, before obviously I even worked for Supplement Superstores, like I couldn't even afford it. Like I
Hmm.
would only use it when David would bring some back. But when I started working at Supplement Superstores, like that was the perk. That was like the biggest perk because at the stores, and just like we would do at an event that you did, with the event with Will and Steven, we're mixing up shakes all the time, sampling products. Well, me struggling financially over here, struggling to pay my bills and buy groceries, like we'd be mixing up shakes all day long in the stores. And like we just pour a little bit out in a cup for somebody to try. And then the rest of the guys would go pour the rest of the shaker bottle out in the sink and wash the cup. And I'd be back there drinking every single protein. And
Hitting my
especially
protein.
the ice cream sandwich level one, like that was my first love.
Me
And
too. It was my first Phorm product that I was like, this.
yeah, I mean, from the taste, the little cookie pieces in it, like I could not get enough of that product. And I drank it so much that over like the first 4 years I was in the company, then I couldn't drink it anymore. Like I burnt myself out on it.
I remember when you guys dropped ice cream cookie. I remember looking at my email because I like tried to order ice cream sandwich the week before and I was like, oh, it's sold out. And then I remember seeing that and I immediately texted Kyle and I was like, does this mean ice cream sandwich is gone?
It's
He's like,
gone.
it's gone. I'm so sorry.
Will keeps lobbying that we bring it back as like a limited time deal.
It's funny because I think immediately after that, I called Supplement Superstores and I ordered 2 tubs of it from them.
Yeah, hey, that's a good move. That is a expert move right there,
But
Caitlin.
yeah, anytime you guys are sold out, I'm like, let me call my people over at Supplement Superstores. They're
That's right.
awesome. They're going to ship me some.
That's right. Well, Caitlin, I appreciate the time very much today. It was a pleasure to spend a little bit more time with you. And again, I'm looking forward to that Wednesday that you come in town and we get that workout in together.
I'll be there. The Echo Bike is my thing, so let's just die on the Echo Bike.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I had to do 2 minutes max calories the other day, and I hit a PR of 40 cals, and I am a small person, so I'll take that.
That's good. So we now, I mean, we have a lot of equipment in the gym, but the three pieces that are my least favorite are not in order, just I equally hate all of them. The Echo Bike, the now Versa Climber, didn't
Oh
know
yeah,
that's terrible. And then Concept 2, we just got the Strength Erg. Have you used that before?
I haven't, but I've seen it and I want it.
Also equally awful.
Yeah, no, my coach has made me really good at the Echo Bike through doing really terrible things.
Yeah, we use it often here. So I will make sure whenever you come in town, we will make sure we do the Versa Climber, the Strength Erg, and the Echo Bike. It'll just be the whole workout for an hour, just rotating through pieces of equipment.
Great. Sounds like a good time. Awesome. Well, thank you again, Aaron. And for everybody listening, go out and do one thing that's going to take you one step closer to where you want to be.
Appreciate you, Kate.